Is everybody here on the WhatsApp group? It's not mandatory, but okay. In order to be on the WhatsApp group, we've said we need to know who we are, even for our own security, right? We don't want someone who's random to be on. So you fill the survey and we'll share it now. We'll provide a link. Even if you're not, it's not mandatory to be on the WhatsApp group, but please, let's just have your information. It's important, right? And what we do with that. So a couple of things we've started to run. The first thing is we have a monthly virtual session. It's fantastic that we're able to gather here in person, but because of distance, ongoing commitments, financial and otherwise, we can't do this as often as we'd like. So we'll substitute and leverage technology. So every month, the last Saturday of every month, we have a session. And it's open to everybody. You can dial in. Sometimes there'll be a speaker. Sometimes it's just a catch up, right? It's just a way to get to connect. And I'll tell a story of one of the things that happened in one of our sessions, again, along these themes of community. I think last month or 2 months ago, we had a young man join. He graduated AFMS in 2019. He's in the US. He's studying to be an aerospace engineer. And as part of this, he's decided to join the US military. But as part of his onboarding, post his boot camp, he was looking to get into a military academy. Lo and behold, on the call, we had, I think, 2 pilots. Udo was on the call, and he wants to be a naval pilot, right? Udo was on the call, I think Tari was on the call. And between the 2 of them, we're able to give him so many nuggets of advice. Then all of a sudden, he's talking about, okay, I'm looking to get into the military academy. He's like, okay, did you know Ogagos is on this call? And he attended the Citadel. And he has classmates from the Citadel who are major generals in the US Armed Forces. Take his number, call him. That's how mentorship starts. Now, how would a 19-year-old kid who shows up from Nigeria ever get that sort of access? And it's just there. So let's not, and I don't think Ogagos would have joined that in thinking, okay, this is going to be, he just joined. So let's not underestimate the impact of just being engaged, being connected as a community. So please join our monthly calls when you can, right? People stay on for 30 minutes, an hour, or longer. But it helps us foster this sense of community. The second thing we're doing is, as ex-schools, anyone on the database, we're making it a point to have a check-in call once a month. So if you are on the database, and you can block also, but we implore you not to. If you're on the database, we'll call you once a month. The call is just casual. It's just safe and over time, hopefully that will lead into other things, but we need to, again, just be connecting with each other. I was fortunate, I think we divide the list randomly, and I called a senior bride who I hadn't spoken to, who happened to be just out of surgery. So again, it's wonderful what happens when you just engage. Let's build this community. Let's strengthen this community. It's our community. And there are unbelievable things that can come from it. This is just the beginning. So thank you again. Like I said, I'll try not to speak much. We'll open the forum now, right? And one of the things we want to do with this is to get ideas, thoughts, input, suggestion on how we could better nurture these engagements. What are the things we could do? What are our thoughts? And even if there may be things that are outside of this theme, it's an open forum. We'll run the conversation. I would moderate, try and keep us on track. Please, people online, again, if you want to have a question or a contribution or a suggestion online, just raise your hand and we'll pause. And let's have an open forum. We'll run it for till 1. Yeah. We'll have a debrief afterwards, and then we can take it from there. So again, thank you very much, and we look forward to a vibrant conversation today.
So, thank you, President, for that warm introduction. I think, like he said, we want to just open up to discuss what we're talking about building a community of excellence, a number of things and a number of plans and projections have come to inform. We understand that, like I said, we're at different phases in this journey, and so we want to have this discussion should geared towards addressing all those phases. I mean, some of us just relocated to Canada or the US, right? It's a different phase and it's a different stage versus someone that has been here, 20 odd years or 30 odd years. Someone that is just starting out a career is different from someone that is looking into senior leadership. So we want to, open up the forum to identify some of the tools and some of the processes that we as a group and we as an association can put in play that would foster that bond and build that community of excellence that we desire. So I will open it up for comments, thoughts, contributions. Who do I see your hand up? Please go ahead and the floor is yours.
I'm able for a comment that one of the few things I remember when coming to Canada, I remember there's the origin of our and it was nice to have a package that says that kind of starts to explain a few things to you. Most people don't read it.
So let me just suggest something, just for the benefit of those online. Maybe we were to make comments, should make it with the microphone.
Okay,
That's what I mean.
Stretch.
Stretch it forward. Hey, good.
Oh, okay.
Stretches.
All right. No, that's good.
One match up, you one match up, okay? Is it on?
Yes.
You want, okay, so one of the things I know that I found very helpful was the welcome package, and the second time I think that was also very helpful was among the people that actually found this, nobody invited me. What happened? And I called somebody because I actually called somebody, and then it was doing one of the Zoom meetings, and that's how I got it. Somebody was busy, and that's how I got it. And the only thing he wanted, the younger people that are coming, maybe for school or anything, it will be nice. We design something small. It doesn't have to be money to anything, but it's a welcome package that says, hey, you're here. These are people you can call. These are people you can meet. If you're in this area, you can call this person, let us know what you're doing, when it's gotten, how far you have gone, and how we can help. It can be very daunting for very young. Speaking to all the younger people, because I think the youngest person we saw yesterday was 2006, right? And I'm sure there's a whole lot of them in North America, but to reach out to them and be able to see, just like being big brothers, we need to be able to reach out and say, hey, we're here, you're welcome here, and those things can be done. This is who you can call, this is who you can talk to, and then we can take mentorship from there. So that way, we continue to build this community and have younger people coming. What's lacking in the world now is leadership and mentorship. I think if we start with that, it's more welcome package. Design around it, open to ideas, and then go from there. And from there, you can actually have something to speak with this one, and be confident, where you just say, hey, it's where we meet, who you can call. And in times like this, where mental health is also very important, you can reach out to people, they're not alone, then we can go from there. Thank you.
Please just put our together. Yeah. Comments, but you raise a very important question about how do we connect with those that are, is really into our communities. But more than that, it's a question that comes to mind from the points that you raised is how do we even know these people coming in? And it's one thing to connect when we know. Problem is that in some cases we do not even know where they come. So that's a question. If you have thoughts, if you have any other ideas, comments, please go.
Yeah, I think that is an excellent point. So I think the suggestion would be, that so we can figure out how to connect with the associations back in Nigeria, with national level and the state levels. so that they know, because to the extent they involved with the association, so that they know that, okay, this is, the association can let them know that, okay, if they're moving to North America, this is how to get in touch with the association. I think that's one way of this now, through the association department.
Thanks for that. Thank you very much. Just to add to what Orlando said, I actually found out about this organization through the Lagos organization as well. When I was moving to Canada, I spoke to some of the experts there, and they said we have a couple of people in North America who are already on the group and they are introducing and that's how they link up with some of the experts and they are able to do. So I think that is a point. Working with the association back home will help. And then I think the other thing again is that and honestly speaking, I don't know how the leadership is going to help with this. We do have some people who are actually coming to North America where they don't necessarily see the need to want to associate with the group. And it's not like, how do I put it? Some of them, they just feel like, so for example, I spoke to one of the ex-jobs a few days ago, and she was like, she doesn't know most of the guys, or most of our seniors that will be there, and that besides, she doesn't even know how to relate to people and all of that. So there are some people who genuinely maybe just don't know how to benefit from the organization. So I guess the welcome package will help to let them know that, hey, you don't have to navigate these new loans that people have done implement some benefits that will be attached to that as well. And from the company as well, so about so yes, all of this will help a lot. Thank you, Miguel. I think what you raised, obviously we see some of us love PTS. And that's the update on the forum, like, well, I think that's a very good point. And I saw something
I think those two ideas are very, one of the things behind this services, one of the things I know about the online and bagels, they're very active. I mean, because we ask ourselves why we here, they're here to do that too much jobs. And why do people have a nice city, the other times you back in the institution and the other things. I think also we should have a presence at the institution. So that the kids, before they actually graduate, they know that's their chapter. They know this is a chapter. They should also know that there's a chapter in the US. So even if you don't want to associate when you graduate, we got chapter of Lagos. You might be coming straight to the US. So you can have down chapter. So I think going down to that, even if they forget, where's a flyer that campus and presentation we do every year, but they build it to them so that they know that it's a present. So they don't have to start looking for people. They can decide to join them, but they actually
and so just so we aware, we're taking this in the schools and also writing down these comments, these thoughts, and we'll definitely we'll take that away and integrate that into our plan to go forward. So please, no comments, it's just putting out on the ground without other discussions on the school. So we're not this is supposed to be very an objective tool for us to be able to address some of the gaps that we've opportunities that exist in the association. So please feel free to open up your thoughts. So I mean, I think those are very vital points we've raised around the integration of our members, maybe from the point of graduation or relocation from Nigeria. And I think that the integral piece, just that communication link with other chapters, especially local chapters. And quite frankly, integration is not just coming from Nigeria alone. We have people that come from the UK to Canada. We have people from Canada going to the UK, vice versa. So I think that network of the chapters, the local chapters, the national chapters, I think it's very important for us to be able to facilitate that easy integration where people can leverage the network that we have and ultimately ease settling into a system. I could go on and on about stories like he said. I also found the ex-jam community in North America via Facebook posts. Right. So again, we didn't have the benefit of someone reaching out, and I think that's where that opportunity lies. And we can be more proactive and be more intentional in how we navigate, connecting one another. And I think that leads me to another point that we've talked about and we continue to talk about, which is for those that are here and are settling in, what can we do as an association? What can we do as a body? Some of them, their families are here and they're still shuttling back and forth. So it's an open-ended spectrum of phases. I know some of us even in this room that before we ultimately moved to North America, we had families here, we're going to journey back. But what can we do to support people just coming into our communities in North America? I'll open that up to your thoughts, comments, and if you have other questions or added questions to this, please. Please, for those on the call, if you want to say something, if you want to contribute to this conversation, which we gladly would want your participation, please just raise your hand. I'm monitoring the chat section and activities there, and you'll be called upon. We will clearly hear you, so please feel free to chime in as well.
Okay, with regards to helping people that are back home who want to try and immigrate, I think one way that some of us can help is like an association. We can also help them who want to immigrate here. So, for example, when I was coming here, I had a bunch of information from different people. Many of them I don't trust. Some of them I have to Google it myself. But if I had a North American ex-jam who I could, been talking to back there, who tell me, don't come to Toronto, Toronto is too expensive, or Calgary is too cold or something like that. I would be more inclined to believe such a person than maybe just another Nigerian that is posting the video on YouTube or Instagram. So I think that will help. I was in Nigeria last month, and a couple of the exams that I went for the Lagos State monthly meeting. And a couple of the Nigerians that were there were asking me about, how to come to Canada, either an entrepreneur or other things like that. Right now, we're communicating. I'm actually giving them all the pointers, telling them how to go about it, which provinces are the best and the easiest for them, those kind of things. So I think, again, being more intentional, collaborating with the unions back home, as well as maybe the military school itself, to let them know that we're here. If there's any question either about North America or immigrating or whatever it is, even if it is career-wise, there are some of them that are already asking me about what the venture capital means. I'm in the VC space now, discussing. So I think us being more intentional and putting ourselves out there for them to reach out to us, because I post a lot on Instagram, and when I post anything else with XJAM, I actually put XJAM hashtag there, and a couple of XJAMs really reach out to me to ask me how we use Canada, how we market, they know all this kind of thing. So I think maybe we can do things along that line, be more intentional, reach out to people and organizations who want to come here as well. Maybe that will help. Please, feel free to talk. Get the one.
Oh, sorry. Okay.
So just one thing, I think that's a great suggestion around the national and the state chapters and the presence actually in their evidence. And I think I'd want us to just hold that thought, especially the presence in AFMS. And let's come back to that, because I think it's really, really important. I think it's live, but unfortunately, I think a lot of us leave. And even if we can't physically be present, we're completely disconnected, right, from the school. And again, look, one could argue on the one end, there's no need to. But I would always look back, and I would always, not to maybe too repetitive, go back around communities that have been able to thrive outside their environment. And a lot of them, it's also remembering the source, and it's often driven by the best. And I would say, having had the privilege of attending the FMS, I say it with all humility, we're the best the country has to offer. right? So when the best the country has to offer, when we don't give back or we're completely shut out, then there's no hope. Right, so I think that presence is very important, and that presence for graduating ex-jam to see what other people are doing and done, right? That inspires and that then provides the other. But I think the other one that, so please, we'll come back to that. But I think the other forum we should also explore, I know most, like myself, we have the WhatsApp forum. So maybe also the set forums to basically, I don't say broadcast, but let them know about the presence, right? So what it leads me to is the how, right? So the presence for the national chapter, the state chapter, like how do we practically go about? So is this like a monthly flyer we do? Is it a monthly or quarterly thing? Just to raise that awareness, because I think it has to be a continuous thing.
I think you can one way that very essential. Here in the comment. And usually there's always the another meeting after you. Even if we have somebody or one person, even if we have somebody like present you actually starts to because you go pretty much. Or we said a real message or something that to show our presence around. Okay, yes. And they have the another meetings to remind people that their chapters can join. And this is also one of those chapters you can join and reach out to people. From there, we can go down the plan. But it's always important to have a few, always the annual event that we can always use.
I mean, that's a good point. I might have some reservations, but that I think that's a good point. I think that's somebody the POP day you're probably not thinking about. Good point.
But I think that's a great point. My suggestion would be to probably coordinate with the national association and let them have it like a ritual to do like, like before people after their whole activities that happen. So there could be like an activity where it's just about the alumni association. What's the alumni association? What does it have to offer? What you have to offer? Where are they? As you're graduating, you're going to be an alumni. That kind of stuff. Then, they talk about the local and, national alumni association. So just having like a ritual where this is, an ex-jam alumni day or something for all the people before they pass out. Yeah. And then that will be coordinated by the National Association.
No, I think that's another excellent point. And I wasn't sure that I think that we kind of use yours to on those points. I think it's great that we have all this series of events leading up to the POP, to the season of the community, I know that the national body has some level of involvement in price giving. I think that might be it's truly some opportunity. So it's something that we should take out and try to get some more insights, some more information around that topic. Is there any comments on again how we can seamlessly integrate members, folks that are coming into North America, how we can talk to them, how we can connect and actually help them in the individual process, definitely in process. So we're looking at that and we'll also build up different phases of our members. But we wanted to start with the first thing is when they come into North America, how can I help you?
Don't mind me, just the idea in my head this morning. So one more thing I'm thinking we might also try, and it might be a long shot in that. So for example, in Alabama there, we've got this Nigerian association both in Calgary as well as Edmonton. And what they typically do is they typically partner up with different government immigration agencies. So when any Nigerian is coming into the country and they're landing in Alberta like that, what typically happens is that the government is actually the one that reaches out to the Nigerian community to say, hey, we've got a couple of Nigerians here, show them the ropes. And I think one of the reasons why this came about was that a couple of refugees from Bauchi State, where Boko Haram was making them, They brought in almost 50 or 60 of them to a remote city in Alberta. And they needed help. Most of them could not speak English, only Hausa. So that was when the government actually reached out to the Nigerian community in Calgary. I was among the people who were actually elected to go talk to them because I could speak Hausa. So I don't know if that's something we can do to partner with such agencies. And then I know there's a couple of startup companies who are also trying to help immigrants with consultants. So when those immigrants come in, they can get any kind of consultant they need, people to help them sign their code leads and all that. So I don't know if that's another avenue that we can also explore.
Well, excellent idea and contribution. I think that, when I came in, if someone kind of walked me through, setting up a bank account, renting in specific areas in town, or the mortgage process. If someone walked me through that objectively, from the standpoint of a consultant, that might have significantly helped my integration. I see Ola Rashid on the call. So thanks for joining the call, Ola, and please feel free to unmute yourself and address the house.
Hello, everybody.
Hello.
Good morning from Calgary. I know it's afternoon there in Toronto. So my apologies, I'm not able to come physically. It's really painful, but I've got something that requires my attention here. It's family matter that I needed to stay behind. And so my apologies again for not being there. Really, really sorry. Even joining today, I think somebody texted me. I had to, leave some of the things I'm doing just to come in. So you will not see me throughout the time. I still apologize for that, but some things just require my attention. I'm sorry. So let me start by commending the current executive. I think kudos to you guys. You're approaching us with open arms. It's not that you lack the ideas or you don't know what to do, but this is part of inclusive participation where you drag everybody along rather than just promulgating, what needs to be done and throwing it out. And I think that one of the foundational steps when you want to carry people along, it's often ignored, but it's a requisite, when you want to have everybody, running at the same speed. So kudos to you guys. What I would like to say here, perhaps it's going to be a repetition of what some people have said, but I just want to put some logic to it. And I will start by saying strategy. For those who may know me, I just think if we start from the head, the details will always fall in place. Most of the discussions I hear, they are details, and I think we're struggling to see how we can put them into a head. The first one I start is for us to attract people or for people to think we're an association, we first need to look inward in terms of value proposition. What do we stand for? Why should they come in here and really look for us? And I've seen various examples of Nigerian society in Calgary and how they go to government and how you go there. But honestly, they've put some package together, and I know their president is an ex-chair guy, Etukudo, and I discuss often and we rub ideas on all those things. But when you tell somebody if you want to renew your passport, we are going to bring Nigerian immigration to Calgary to do it instead of you traveling there. That's an incentive. Everybody goes there. You don't need to be a member, but you just know that you need to go there at some point. You need to register or pay, or you know that they are relevant. So that they're creating an island of relevancy. In other words, we need to have value proposition as an organization and articulate that and be ready. It needs to be a summary, nothing more, nothing less. It can be just in few slides. What do I mean by that? Some of the details are like, we're offering scholarship. How many people know this? We have Oga Amo there sitting there, who is, is an institution when it comes to even getting scholarship, admission, and all those things. That's one thing. I know of, Oga Otiocho and some other folks that they will tell you the in and out of how a student can come into Canada to study. they know how to do it and they are doing it. And so we can tap into this for me and just, articulate it and say, this is the value, guys. But it's not just about associating it or saying it within ourselves. We need to reach out. This is another way of articulating how to socialize. About 6, 7 years ago, for the 82 sets, we did something to AFMS. We had this engagement where we did it live stream with Ogai Umoren. I think Amo was there, Kayode was there. A number of us gave presentation where we opened, their eyes as to what life is post-secondary school and the opportunities out there. And it was really enticing. You could see the sparkle in their eyes. So, but that's 82 set, again, is fragmented. As a North American association, why can't we infiltrate them, for instance? I think it's the president that says, we can't be there physically. I mean, we're not being realistic. But so let's take a session, maybe during their POP as part of their activities or anything. And we have a session with them where we broaden their horizon and say, guys, for those of you thinking of coming to North America, this is what is in it for you. We have people dedicated, people who can help you. There's continuity and just deposit it for them. But even before then, from time to time, this is our value proposition. Let's take time off, maybe 1 hour, discuss with Lagos chapter, take a session from maybe the Port Harcourt session, take a session. And then we begin to say, okay, for those who are coming, we want this kind of register. If you think of coming, fill in this one. We can create a database, catch them young. And we begin to see what they are thinking even before they make up their mind that, okay, for planning purpose, next year we see about 20 people who say they're likely going to come. So we have a way of planning that 20 people are likely going to come here. And that's the first step. They may not all make it, they may change their mind, but we have a ballpark numbers we can work with. And so based on that, what kind of help can we render them? And so when we funnel it this way, we begin to see how realistic our plans can be. And I think if we can structure it that way, I mean, there's no going back. We're just going to be successful in whatever we want to do. That's from my own perspective, for instance. And if not only coming here, it's just not, if you're coming to North America, which province or which state are you likely going to come? And then we begin to activate the key contacts. If you're coming here, for instance, I volunteer, I mentor at Calgary Immigrant Society. Somebody mentioned it and they say, okay, if you go there. So I see a lot of volunteers who come. I see a lot of Nigerians who come and they assign them to me and they say, okay, how do I go about this? And I'm like, okay, so if I'm doing this, even to those who are not ex-JAM, why are ex-JAMs not taking advantage of this? Again, it's a handshake. Perhaps they don't know we have this service. Perhaps they don't know somebody can give them this. So how do we connect that? So back again, if you go into, knowing how many people are coming and, the likely province they're coming, and some of us get the tips, then we can also, begin to accommodate for their needs to say, okay, as soon as they come, this is the number to contact, especially if you need information regarding ABC. If you're coming here for admission and you need the breakdown of everything, see, this is Oga Amo. Text him. If he doesn't get back to you, manage their expectations so that they don't call once and they say, oh, you refused to answer me and that's it. No, 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 no. Everybody is busy. So again, that's management of expectation, which we need to do upfront. So they get it. And I think if we can cascade, and I can see I can almost drop a value tree as I'm talking, how things will socket in, and some of these details that we're saying, how we can now use it to buttress and enrich this conversation. I think we become relevant. I think people will now say, look, you can't come in here except you've contacted. In fact, they will feel they are missing something if they've not done that. And it's not us that will be doing that, even within their circle. They will tell them, say, have you registered? If you've not registered, they're not going to be expecting you. They're not going to budget for you. They're not going to plan for you. They've also got this and that and this and this. And so we need to extend our tentacles beyond even what we're doing here. The lectures are great, but that's only for our consumption. And again, another thing is we need to start targeting. And I mentioned this, I think I was discussing with Ogayo Adams. And I'm like, So I come in here, I'm struggling on how to get a job or how to feed my family. And then I have this presentation coming up of how to enrich myself, how to become, a stock. Why should I care about that? So we need to start targeting who these lectures will benefit the most. And based on that, we begin to see a lot of presence when we invite people. Because now we know, okay, there are 50 students, they're probably not going to be that keen on this lecture. So which one can we do when we want to attract the students amongst us? It's not just about, creating real estate or something, but what will really benefit them the most? And what kind of lecture can we target towards that population, especially the younger ones? And I think if we start doing this one, then we begin to attract them because they know that there's something in it for me. I've got to attend this. In fact, they'll be the one chasing and say, when is it taking place? Oh, I missed this session. It's not going to be the same set of people who are just driving it. So we need to spread this. And again, I need to reiterate, we are doing this thing. Kudos to the current executive. You are doing a lot of these things, but I think it just needs to, let's have a picture, and see how these different elements plug into it so that when we're doing one thing, we know, okay, it belongs to this. How can we, enrich it? So it's kind of like what I would like to just contribute at this point. So again, thank you to everybody and the executives, and you guys are doing an amazing job. And if it's finished, we wouldn't need executives. So this is this is job in progress. It's always continuous improvement. So well done.
Thank you so much, Nicola, for those, those very insightful thoughts. I think that you touched on very key items, largely on strategy, and I think our value prop. I think we can all connect to the need to create value for our members, and that would be what will be our differentiator, and that's what will ultimately get our members as they integrate into our communities to gravitate towards this body. So I think that we've taken your comments. I think it's a lot to digest and action plan to govern.
Thank you, Nicola. Really, really insightful. And again, it's for me, in my mind, it kind of takes you back to this foundational thing. We start from the bottom, right? It's who are we? I would say as an exco group, we've tried to boil it down to four things, and we haven't communicated this, so that's on us. But there's also an element of it that we would like to have input on, not necessarily here, but at least kickstart the discussion. When we think about who we are and why we're relevant, or why should we be relevant, I think there are four things, and these aren't exhaustive. But the first one is to have a community, to be a community that's invested in the well-being of our members. Right? Because that's where everything starts. Our well-being, physically, mentally, emotionally, and then we can go into the how we can do that. So that's number one, the well-being of our members. Number two is to foster growth. Because when you're well, the next thing is not to stand still. And that growth is career growth, personal growth, right? Growth, family growth, right? In terms of, like I said, we have a younger generation here. How do we ensure that not only are we well, we're also thriving? The third one, which I think is the part we focused on for the first part of this conversation, is we help make North America home for for new people coming in, right? Because again, the first part of this discussion has been around people migrating. I mean, we all came here at some point, right? I mean, we were ex-jam, but we all ended up here, right? So how do we do that? And I think we probably touched on that. And then the fourth thing, which I think Ogamo touched on, is we give back. We give back to our school, we give back to our source, right? So, I mean, I don't think these are exhaustive. I don't think this is a one size. We'll communicate this more formally and properly and get input. We're open to even those inputs here while we're here. But I do want us to spend some time and just be mindful of time, that probably if I look at these four, we've touched on making North America home, how people move, and I think we can build on that, and we've got some great ideas on takeovers. But for those of us that are here, right, how do we foster that well-being, right? What are practical ways that we can do that? And then after well-being, then how do we sort of nurture growth? And growth can be many facets. So probably for the second half of this conversation or this discussion, I would like us to maybe discuss that a little bit more, right? Well-being and growth. How can we all have various needs, we all have various stages, but how can we do that? How can we be relevant in that as an organization? And then we'll wrap up with how we kick back to the school before we wind down the session. Thank you.
Any comments, thoughts, suggestions?
So I was just thinking, when Mr. President, and thank you, Oga Kolarachi, for all those thoughts. I was just thinking, we talked about like people coming, people that are already here. So I think we need to think more about our website and how we can really make it more engaging for people to get all that information. I'm thinking, these are just initial thoughts, but I'm thinking like for career groups, for example, we should have like maybe broad areas, medicine, engineering, entrepreneurship, where somebody will go click, okay, who are the people to contact, and you can see. So it's just very interactive, and people can see the immediate value there, and then they can reach out to this person, the doctor here, this person is doing this, that way, we can foster that community, even just online. The someone can really go to the website and when the login is really iterative for them. You can say, oh, I'm looking to, I'm looking to work in tech. And then you can say, oh, in big tech, and see people, who ask members who volunteer to help guide or just answer questions, and you can just see someone you can write. You don't need to know that person as part of the members of the association, the value can be provided. So thinking about how we can, make our website more value giving to people that are both here, people that are just coming. Excellent idea. Excellent.
End of the day, what value we bring in to attract and to retain and to ensure that folks continue to participate. Something that we've done in the past, I don't know how successful that had been, is in the area of immigration. Helping folks to get a passport and having someone over there that is a liaison. I mean, I don't know about you. 2 years ago, I went into that renew my passport. And I got there at about 8 in the morning. I thought I would get out and spend a class. And ultimately my flight, from there on, I got into and I tell you, to still out there in the middle of all of that time, it was still a wonderful week. And it's great on us, the sun hit us, and it's very good snow. So I think once again, what kind of value can we create to endear sales our implementations for time? Another example of how we rise is I don't mention my own. And whenever I'm going back, I let my classmates or people from the Lagos State School. And there's always somebody I hear. As soon as I get out of the boom, pick me up out of the line. 10 minutes, I won't put down because now I'm there. Good job it is to see you through English. So having nuggets of value add like this that we identify, that we put down, that is available to our members, is something that we gotta use
well, we have 120 something almost here in North America. And especially, we're here, but participation is low. How can we get more people involved? Maybe, so that folks feel like, okay, even if they're not home yet, you should have like 30, 40 people on that call right there. And be able to see, all right, these are the reasons. These are the reasons why they should be here right now. Something that I've also now spoke about this is giving back. I knew that, they must stop being said we should focus on the first two, but I'll talk about giving back. I think it's important. It's not in try to, come up with factors along with educating, educators. What I think giving back would be something that, is out looking for this. Be educating them on, the various opportunities, not just that are being here in North America, but that they can also look at in Nigeria, based on the contacts and knowledge that we have acquired here. How can we, pass some knowledge and open up doors, opportunities? These days, everything is on this. You can't that, right in front of you, not. So, giving back, something like that, we should explore and to give us that, that international business. But more importantly, to the extent that are there. These are the ones that we want. Thank you. Please apply. More.
Not connection with not as so but would here is connection. And unfortunately, there might be a school class in that one minds being awesome where people might not even challenge might feel might do well. And why it's also translated to get out thoughts as well as Japan. So we're talking about about actually or speaking, without as far as I said, I'll show to Canada from the West and the to simply without money. We have capacity, instead of said, other rounds and all from us, to reach out this that is the next. It's I don't know how it feels like at the soon, but people are just perhaps watching. I don't know I mean, I've been thinking about them. Obviously, that content is asking to speak what you might challenge. And you go out and remember it's really not how take it, it's not about elements who are like we have enough and so that we know we have us rely on us to connect with because that is connecting. No matter how long we are, if we have and I don't know what we is part of our vision and mission.
thank you, I'll just be, I'll summarize this question for me to focus. I put in some comments that you weren't able to hear, leadership comments. So essentially what we're saying is how do we address the disconnect between our members in Nigeria and just that the disparity between the Nigerian cultural and socio-economic factors with those of us in North America. How can we remove that barrier so our communications and the ease for them to connect with us is heightened? I can use that to a comments from the chat section that says we are only as good as our weakest link. How can North America chapter help to strengthen the national to reflect the standard of this association? So I think both comments from Idris and this question here can go hand in hand. And please feel free to chime in for that reason.
I would like to give my own side of the story. I heard what many of you have said here, as well as the other colleagues. And I think that hit the nail on the head when he says that we need to find ways of attracting, products into the fold. See, over the years, we had various examples, right? They go back to AFS and they try to build structures, right? Some build labs, they build gates, right? By so doing, in my opinion, they are competing with the Air Force, right? The Air Force have the budget for some of these things. Those are not the things that we focus on. In my own opinion, I don't think we should also focus on people who are not yet here in Canada. Right? I mean, people who are not yet here in Canada and the US. There are many people in our midst who are in meeting politics. Right? So there are people who are past the truth of times. And they don't get the shoulder to lean. So we can be here talking about how do we bring in jobs, people who are still in school in AFS. But then there are people here who are falling through the cracks right before our eyes. So how do we help these guys to ensure that we add value to their lives? I can tell of Oga Ochiuchi, right, who fortunately is not here with us today. He may be here tomorrow. That guy and his wife, I have seen them help people that they don't know, people who are not ex-jam, right? They help them pay school fees. They take some kids through college here. We don't know them. These are people that we never met. Right? We could do likewise. We may not be able to do as much, but at least in the same manner, we help other exams. There are cases where, somebody is looking for a job, he just arrives. The guy is trained, he has the skill set, but he's not able to get a job. And right there, I have my job, I'm happy with myself, and perhaps just the way people think in Nigeria, for as long as he is down below me, I'm happy. I think we should be past that. Whatever you can do to lift your fellow exam up to the same shoulder, to the same level, right? We should all do it. It's all about, for me, it's all about not letting any exam fall through the crack. It should be about finding out what their needs are, what they really need, what their problems are, and trying to solve those problems. And there are many of those in North America, just amongst us here. So I think the focus, rather than looking at Nigeria, rather than thinking of how do we bring in people here, there are people amongst us here who are not doing so well and who needs our help. So how do we identify those people and what help can we offer them? If we can do that, we'll be a shining example to many other groups. That's going to make a lot of people who would rather not want to identify with us gravitate towards the Asian association here. That's my 2 cents.
Please let us put our hands together.
Two steps, 269. So I just want to contribute to what DJ said. You know, first of all, I think reaching out to the ex-Jam that is in North America is very important. First, before we start looking outside. When I say outside, I mean outside North America, but it's still very important, you know, to also reach out to the ex-Jam that are outside North America. I know one of the major challenges I passed through when I first came to Canada was I didn't know anybody, right from Nigeria, myself, my wife, and a little kid. Apparently, my wife was pregnant at that time, and there was no support system. You know, she gave birth. It was just 3 of the 4 of us now. You know, and there was no support system. So I think the first thing we have to do is to identify the ex-Jam that is in North America. I'm a very good example. I'm in North America, but I don't join the meetings all the time because the kind of work I do, you know, always has conflicts with the meeting time, you know. So, but that doesn't mean that my heart is not here, you know, and I'm sure there are a lot of people like that. You know, thank God for people like Amo, thank God for people like Oga, DJ, Oga Simon, you know, and you know, the guys in Canada, you know, especially in Ontario, this side of Ontario. But there's one thing I want to say. In the 82 sets, right, we have things we have put in place that kind of attracts people to us. One of such is we have an insurance, you know, scheme. We have something that covers every 82 sets, you know, in case life happens. You know, so I think we should look into adopting things that it might not be insurance per se, you know, adopting things that will be beneficial to everyone across the board in North America. You know, thank you. That's what I have to say.
We talked about it. We're thinking most of these comments. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So mine is I first of all want to commend the EXCO on that initiative of monthly rainfall and ex-Jam and all like that. I cannot emphasize how soothing it is when you receive a phone call from someone.
Nobody has told you.
So I mean, the next I mean that they just started to do it, but I will tell you that it's always so soothing. When Ogatamon calls me and says, okay, he's just asking generally, how are you? And it's always so warm to know that someone out there just said, how are you? And for a long time, I was beginning to feel the same way about I was to call me, how are you? But today, I just so that assignment just will give you. Always nice reaching out to have always nice. Even if you have nothing to offer, find someone to call. And if you for failing to call me, doesn't call me. But now since the very serious part of the job,
That's what
you know. But again, there's this meaning attached to the power assistance. You always narrow assistance to be monetary, or is narrow assistance to providing something, and we negate our experiences. Sometimes you just share your experience with someone, and that goes a long way to help the person in determining his or her next step. I don't necessarily have to give you money. I don't have to accommodate in my house. I don't have to buy groceries for you. But not because I told you a short story about probably a particular time in my life, something I do or something I've done. You probably will pick something from there. And I'll share something now that up until last week, I may have made that mistake. In that exam has to do our exams. So while we're doing this, at the point in time, I think it doesn't sound right in my head. Exam, so that exam is exam. We want to make it poor and on men. But when you're talking to one person, and it's man, that alone, just because of that connection with you light into something that Robert sharing an experience. Probably he had encountered that. And so when I was asking him that question, it really relates to where I was going. He just said to me, the end started of man and men. So the next man, ex-men, ex-jam, one or two ex-men, whatever you call it. But what I'm going to is don't shy away from sharing an experience. Even if it's a bad one. Even if it's a bad one, you help the people and they out of that situation about the planet. So let's go thank for the much people are doing and we encourage all of us to try one or two things about phone calls and then experience. Thank you.
There's a question from the chat section that I want to throw to the house, and it's one that I can personally connect to as well. He kind of touched on your comment around experience, sharing experiences with one another, but this is more on mentoring. So the question is, how can we help match mentees to mentors? Mentors generally will not seek out mentees, but may be available to mentor folks if the mentee makes the contact and help. That is from they once said one thing. We also made a comment about giving back to the business school and posed the question that can we come up with a specific project that we can support directly. So I think that would be the final segment of our discussion. But going back to the mentor-mentee section, would that be?
Well, thank you, Margas. Very, very insightful comments and thoughts. I would just personally, I always think the simple things get underemphasized. Right? And I think you mentioned it. Simple things like a phone call. Right? Just that being available. And we tend to jump to okay, you can make a mistake where you assume that, okay, being caring for people, right, is being available and giving, right? I mean, the ex-jab, they're struggling with just being available to listen. Someone they can talk to. That's very important. So I think those foundational elements are things that I think it's very important. So the actual, like I said, we're kicking it off. When we talk about the survey and having your information, that's why it's important. And just to explain how we go through that process, so it's clear to everyone. We're just going into the second month. What we've done is everybody on the survey, I think they're roughly 110. If you take out the escrows, that's 8 people, so there's roughly 102. We divide it into 8. Everybody gets a group. And once a week or once a month, we just call everybody. So people you meet voicemail, Some people, they don't answer. The next month we rotate it. So if I get one group this month, next month that group goes to IO. And so the idea is that through the course of 12 months, you should get, I mean, if you're available and we can reach you and everything works, you should speak to every exco at least twice through a 12-month period. And again, there's no agenda. It's just hello. So. I'm 89 cents. Some people you met in school, it's your first time of reconnecting with them in a long time. Some people you've never met. And it's just to say, we're ex-jam, we're just calling to say hello. Now you can now discuss it. What are you people doing about this? Why don't we do this? Right? But let's start from there. But we don't have to end there. Right? So the questions are, how do we build on that? And again, let's please continue to just nudge each other on how we can take it further. The idea of an insurance scheme, and again, we have someone who has a subject matter expert on that, so we'll pull on that goes after this to think of how these are things that are very tangible. That can we do this for every registered member of that? For me, I think that's just fantastic. It's something that is tangible, very tangible. So I think that's something that, and again, hopefully that encourages, you have to be registered, you pay, but then it's something that can be open to everybody. And people don't need it, that's fine. On the issue of giving back or the folk in Nigeria, I don't want us to underemphasize that because I think there's a connection, right? And the reason I see there's a connection, and for me, and I speak personally here, so not as expo hat. Probably the most fundamental, in my mind, are the students. Right? One of the biggest lessons I tell people I personally learned in the US is the ability to see things and dream. Because you've seen what people are doing. And there are kids in AFMS now who just have no idea. And that access to be able to talk to someone who's in North America, who's flying helicopters, who's starting a cancer startup, right? It just gets their mind. So for me, I'd say that giving back, if I could be selfish, I would say it should focus around the students, the individual. I agree with that. It's not necessarily about building a structure, building a classroom, it's great. But let's try and look for ways to reach them. It could be twice a year. We talk to the SS3 class and we bring one or two people, right? To tell them about our careers, our journeys, right? You think back now and you take it for granted. You left FMS 25, 30, 40, 10 years ago. And your journey since then, right? So being able to impart that journey, the mistakes you've made, the good choices on somebody who's just growing. Even if one or two things stick. So let's not, so please, just 2 points I make, not to ramble. The first one is in terms of well-being, I think just that connection is important. As experts, we're taking that importantly, but let's also do that amongst ourselves, right? Just being a listening here, being available. And then the second thing, giving back, I think let's not underemphasize it. It is important because some of the ex-jam will never come to America, but it's okay. You go and do great things, and that will spell other great things. So those are my 2 cents.
Please let us put that answer for me.
Thank you so much. Thank you all for coming. So 2 points. I'll just in the outreach of membership. I think how friends of videos were client members, for the most part, mentee, we don't really try to seek our mentors and not many mentors go around asking because as a mentee, you and as a mentee, you need to ask yourself, what are your goals? What do you want to engage in? What are your likes? What are the things that you think you want to become? You want to be a pilot, you want to be so on. So usually the first point of contact is going to be maybe if any one of us, whosoever that mentee, that potential mentee gets in touch with, then the issue will be able to find who are the people who are know, who are the engineers, who are the pilots here, who are the financial planners and so on. And only by so doing, they're able to at least connect. I remember that a couple of years ago, the provider, the physician who was applying for residency training, he said, okay, fine, I think I know one or two people, he made the necessary contacts, and to whatever extent, we were able to really speak to that provider and so these are places where you need to apply to. The Northeast, the foreign medical graduates, that is where you're likely going to get the chance of being selected. If you apply to other university programs and so on, you know even know that that's your path. I think the issue really is Nigerians and so on. We have to work 3-4 times as hard as any official who's around to be able to now measure. You send your transcripts, you see C's, B's, and so on, whereas transcripts from here, see them having A's and A's. It's only programs who are, to at least work with foreign graduates and say that somebody who made C's, B's, in Nigeria is almost equivalent to somebody presenting with A's here. So, yes, whoever that mentee gets in touch with, yes, they should be who are the people I can link and such an mentee with. And I think it goes a long way. It's helping them to decide how to prioritize their limited resources. Just one great thing about the issue of giving back. I think the dependency is for us to make the value in the sense that how much we have to give back. We don't have to make millionaires. But yes, advice, saying, okay, let me get you in front of the right contacts. Giving back to colleagues who are within North America or even back in Nigeria. There are some needs that you are able to meet on your own part of it. You need it so much that beyond what you can really offer, and feel free to let the group know. I think the group being able to kind of get several hands together and be able to do the things and the development of this. Thank you so much. Thank you.
I want to be a medical doctor. I apply for residency. So those contacts is to talk about.
That's why so I think we would kind of switch things up on the use into the phone. I don't know the Zoom using the phone.
Because for the benefit of those on the call. Can you hear better now?
Yes. So much better.
Can you hear better now?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. All right. Someone want. Okay.
Yeah, thank you. I want to talk about the mentorship Oga mentioned. Oga Kenneth, nice seeing you. I don't know if you still remember me. Yeah. He actually hit exactly what I wanted to say about that connection, but again, I also want to talk about something very, very important, is that your experience in Nigeria, right, coming to North America must not be necessarily followed. And I will explain this. Maybe I'm an engineer in Nigeria, for example, a pilot, whatever, in Nigeria. I might be boxing myself in if I say that, okay, I want to continue doing that kind of job. I have a very good friend that worked in a bank in Nigeria, waited for years, to secure a similar job here in Canada. Now, I think what we should be looking at is how to link people, with, let me use this word, influencers. There are some people that can talk, that after talking to you, you will want to go and face Goliath. You understand? A good example is Kayode Atobatele. I know you all know him. Way back, when people come and meet me and say, oh, I have a problem, I have a problem, I have a problem. The first thing I tell them to do is go and talk to Kayode. And they call me back and say, oh boy, thank you very much. This guy that I said was a banker, apparently he didn't go and talk to Kayode, but but this is where I'm going to, right? This guy actually had some other skills that were actually needed in Canada more than the banking skills. So I am a banker and I'm looking for a mentor that has, that is a banker, but hey, my skills in Nigeria does not necessarily fit, but I'm a handyman. I know how to fix stuff. Guess what? There's a huge market for that. So I wouldn't want us to look at that at that mentorship, boxing ourselves in as okay, this was what I used to do before, and this is what I want to do here in Canada. I think we need to think outside the box, and link people with people that can actually put them in the right direction. Thank you.
Sorry, let's put our hands together for him, please. So before I pass it on to Ogamo, just being mindful of our time, we want to just try to wrap this section up, and then we'll wrap up with giving back. I think we've already touched on it to some extent, so we could just wrap up. But we'll try to wrap up maybe within the next 10-15 minutes. I know we want to continue to to have this family discussion, but at some point I think we will have to go rest and reconnect with our families and then reconvene for gala. I want to pose a question though. There is, I've seen to some degree where we facilitate some of these kinds of platforms, like coaching platforms or mentorship platforms. Not necessarily because the question that the person posed is, mentors will not typically go reach out to a mentee, and to some degree, mentees might not maybe find the confidence or find the platform to be able to reach out to a mentor. What are our thoughts about a matching system that could facilitate that kind of pairing? It might not necessarily be within parameters that might be, like you said, banker, but it might just be a senior ex-jam to a younger ex-jam. And it might just be life experiences. It might just be hobbies. It might not be just pairing for the sake of pairing. And you could seek the benefit that could afford. And then maybe ultimately, maybe after a few years, we could also do the same process and then revert and then just kind of go through that maybe year in, year out. It's a thought, and I just wanted to throw it open to the house to see what our thoughts are. Ogamo has
Thank you very much. I just want to piggyback on some of the things that Kola said, or DJ and Femi. I'll just use myself as an example. One of the things that I used to do was trying to solve everybody's problems when I came from Nigeria and stayed here. And I think a lot of times getting to the details of stuff, what I've really learned how to do is have to say I don't know or no. And in this organization, there are people that I've known for maybe like 4, 5, 6 years on Zoom, maybe post-COVID. I still don't know what they do. I know they're doctors, but I still don't know what. And so I think we don't even know ourselves very well. And it starts from that database. That's the answer. Let's figure out, what does this person do? Who is this person? Yes, we all went to FMS. I don't know what a lot of. Let's get that database together. That will solve a lot of. The other thing too is, I tell this to my students all the time. If you want to buy bananas and I'm selling mangoes, it doesn't matter how beautiful my mangoes are, you're not going to buy it.
And we started with the Indian community, and that's how I followed the trajectory of those folks. They come into this country, they go to school, they connect with other Indians, when they're done, they connect with other Indians that can connect them with OPTs, and that's how they get their residencies and they work for, and that is just a pipeline. What I agree with Oga DJ with is, yes, we have to know each other here. We have to be able to mentor each other here. We have to know what the issues are with each other here. And we have to accept that we cannot solve all the problems. But where we have expertise, let's build something around it, whether it's real estate, whether it's career services, whether it's education. Let's start baby steps. We don't have to do everything at the same time. Let's start with what expertise we have. That is the basis of it. And if we don't know, hey, these are resources. This is America. We don't have to solve everybody's problem. And I think, for me, anyway, I think the simple steps, not getting into the details, like Kola said earlier on, just the ones we can solve. What are the big issues? What can we do? What are the problems that our members face? Any organization in America, whether it's Yoruba, the biggest issue that they have is not being able to solve the problems of their own members here before they start doing something back home. Because a lot of members that don't come here is like, what's in it for me? Even the young guys who are like, what's in it for me? Why am I part of the organization if you can't solve my problem? So that issue of, hey, let's talk about stocks and all that. How many people are really interested in stocks when they're trying to pay their rent? So I think it's identifying what the problems are for our core group. One of the things we identified that when we did the education one, we have families who are trying to send their kids to school. We'll do something on education. How do you get into college? How do you get into boarding school? Like competitive things like that. If it's where to live, I mean, real estate, you want to buy a house. If that's what our group wants, or if that's the question that's coming out from the group, then we solve that, as opposed to building it and hoping they'll come. No, go to them and ask them, what should we do? What do you guys want? But the first thing first, we don't know each other. We see each other on Zoom, we don't know each other. Let's be honest about that. Thank you. Hello. You know what I do. I think that's something that will go a long way.
No problem. No audio. Guys, I've heard like a lot of feedback from what you guys said. I just want to, happen like a couple of things I've heard and really like get to a point where we can actually like start providing solution. Right? We're talking about the problems that we're facing. I think the first thing I want to say is like, I think there's a danger for this group nationally that we need to make sure that we don't become like a welfare association. Like everything I've heard here is not about welfare. And welfare is good, but it's not it shouldn't be the primary thing. Because for you to provide welfare, you have to have the means to actually like, provide that welfare. Because everything, whether we like it or not, everything revolves about, there's a financial aspect to everything. And we cannot be an organization that's driven by dues, right? Our membership dues just won't cut it. We're not going to solve anybody's problem here. Like we really need to like start thinking of, there's a welfare side, great. But then there's a business side and keep them completely separate, right? There has to be a business drive. Number two, we talk about mentors and mentees. I can tell you this, perception is everything, right? We are on the North American forum, some of us are on the Lagos forum, some of us are on different forums, right? Either because we've moved. I can tell you this, and I'm being open. I can see certain comments or certain inputs from certain individuals, and it turns me off. Perception is everything. Everything you do online, professionally, like socially, has an impact on the way people view you and on the way, in fact, those of you who are in HR will understand that. So these companies actually go and want to see what you're actually posting on your social media handle. So you can imagine us like in our own small group where you start seeing the level of communication amongst ourselves. That drives some of the people that want to be mentors. Say, you know, I don't want that guy. I don't want to talk to him. In fact, I'm struggling to find out how is he, did we go through the same school, right? And that's kind of like, it's a fact, right? So we must be factual. We must be able to look each other in the face and say, you know, like, because it's all about values, integrities, and we all want better for everybody. And it means that we really have to like uphold, you know. So I think that's very important for all of us. Whatever you post, like, it's you're actually like you're selling yourself to somebody, right? I might want to reach out to you because you have like a problem, but I see something, I'm like, nah, you know, he's a bit off, right? Or I'm a bit off. It can be anybody. So I think we should be cautious, we should be careful of that. Like I said, I really want to focus on solution, right? Because I can tell you this, like, you know, I think a lot of us here have lived in the West more than we've had in Nigeria, unfortunately, but we're still Bushmen of Nigeria and we love it. I want to like think of like, I want people to kind of like say, listen, you know, like adding value is not just about here. We need to like step up. If you want to like, let's say, raise money, change your environment, you have to attract the best, right? So we said, what is it that we're doing to attract people to come to us? We know people in the Lagos chapter, right, in other chapters that are really higher, but we don't tap into them because I think there's another danger. It's like some associations think that they're better than associations, but we're all one group. This group is no more important than the Lagos chapter. The Lagos chapter is no more important than the Port Harcourt chapter, is no important than the Imo chapter, wherever the Bauchi chapter, wherever you are. So it's how we need them back home as much as they need us. We're not going there to solve everybody's problems. We need them. Otherwise, you have this hierarchical issue where resentment begins to build. So I really want us to like think and really like maybe the next time start, you know, let's start looking at solutions because there are many solutions. When I think of innovation, you know, people have jobs, but the world has changed. It's not about the 9-to-5 job anymore. Yes, we need the lawyers, we need the doctors, we need the engineers. But here, like I retired at 52 in April this year from full-time work, not interested anymore. Right? Because there are other ways to like make money. There are other ways to impact people. It's not just like, hey, you know, like, yeah, some people want to be engineers, great. But if you want to make serious money, like we said to Mark Zuckerberg and all those guys, like they didn't finish. They went into somewhere, found something, and that's what we want. I want people to begin to like think innovatively. If you're going to like work 20, 25 years, well, the blueprint's already there. You're not going to be like way out. You have to be an innovator to kind of like be at that level. But if you're going to like work like in a work that's going to give you a pension, I can tell you, you're going to impact your immediate family, great, but you're not going to be able to do like a lot for, you know, the people that you maybe want to. So please, let's kind of like, let's just not just focus on welfare. It's important. I'm of Chris' opinion. I went to AFMS. We're ex-jam for a reason. We passed out, right? There's one thing, we passed out, right? So you have to earn being an ex-jam. You have to go through it and then come out on the other side. The Air Force, the military have a budget to like make sure that school is, I want to impact, or we should be looking to impact individual lives. And it starts here, right? It starts with this group. I can't be saying I'm looking at a guy that's coming out from school next year and the guy who is in North America or in any chapter in Nigeria is, we don't have a job. I can't feed my family because we all get those messages, right? So that's all I have to say. I want us to get into the solution so we can begin to really think about what we do to kind of like move the needle, right? Not just forward, but exponentially. Thank you.
I won't take more than 2-3 minutes. I know I'm conscious of time. So great comments from everyone. My name is Buchi Akunyili, 91 set. And yes, I'm in Toronto here.
I just wanted to touch on two key things. That one, I think Oga Kola mentioned about strategy, coming up with a value proposition. And Oga Beam said there were 4 tenets in terms of what we deliver as an organization. So that work or that needs to be communicated at some point. So as Oga Simon mentioned, like North American chapter is no different from Lagos, Port Harcourt, Abuja, so or even the National Expo. So I think there needs to be an alignment between our value proposition and the national body. So like this should be something that regardless of when you graduate, once you pass out from AFMS, each chapter will offer the same value proposition. It's kind of standardized across globally, right? So I think one of my ogas mentioned that, yes, you have people that are intending to migrate to North America and we are only an afterthought. Why? How can we catch them up? But the thing is that once you pass out from AFMS, first and foremost, rarely do you find people just immigrating straight from AFMS to North America. They'll have to join one of the local chapters at some point. So they start seeing those values, those benefits. From the local level, if be it Abuja, Lagos, or a Ilorin chapter, then obviously they'll be on the lookout. Like if you land in North America, there's a chapter. I think one of my ogas also mentioned about something about creating a website or a database. I know it's great that we're creating it. We need to pretty much, should I say, scale, get some efficiency gains. So like, yes, we're building this database for North America. What does it take for us to make that a global or a national database, right? And you have multiple chapters, directory. I know Agapim also mentioned privacy, data, and stuff like that, security. So, but yes, not everyone is comfortable placing out their personal phone numbers on the directory for people to reach out. It could be just simple emails, like people can just put your email address in that directory, whereby, oh, and next time, oh, I'm going to, I don't know, Bauchi next year. Which exam is in Bauchi? And I just check the directory to say, okay, is there any exam? I could just send an email a week before getting there that I'll be in Bauchi. I don't know where I am. So I think that is something that we can pretty much leverage. And if we have that website at the global or a national level, regardless of chapters, we can actually, because today we're in a digital world whereby my venture capital, Olga said, people tend to lean towards YouTube videos, right? In terms of how to Java. So, but if we have all these nuggets of information for all well-being, for piloting, for immigration, we could also save those nuggets videos in our database and in our website that people can just refer to at every point in time, right? As opposed to just relying on YouTube, right? And have that inventory. So I think those are the things how we can actually capture people before they think about Japan, during the Java process, and after. In terms of the phone calls, I think I'm one of the beneficiaries of receiving those phone calls, because when I came to Canada about 9 years ago, I had 0 relatives, no friends. I didn't know any exam except Oga Kefas. And at that point, I hit a really low point in my marriage that it was struggling. I knew nobody and I couldn't even talk to anyone, only Oga Kefas that I knew. And Oga Kefas then, obviously, he was years apart. He was like in SS3 when I was in Form 1, right? So I just drove out to his place, midnight, and he just listened. That was it. He just listened. He was the only person. It's not like, obviously, he was way my senior, but because he was an ex-jam, I could pour my mind, I could pour my heart to him, I could open up to him regardless. So just giving people that listening goes a long, long way, right? So I'm kind of glad and grateful. Obviously, worked on my marriage and everything is perfect now, right? So, but there are points in life that we have roadblocks, we have obstacles. That's life, right? So just leaning against each other. So I think the website database that Ogamo and Ogapim said, I think it's something that we should work on and make it at the global stage, because these are, if it's servers or setting up a website, it's the same cost. So like how can we get efficiencies of scale? Okay, I think what we're going to do is we would
said, you know, very interesting. Some of the big, whether it's you said there's some the website. We might not necessarily have, but we can actually reach out to them. And we have it. And that way we actually we going to have
Audio.
what happens. Here we are going together. Here we go. Because that way you not have to have the idea that people are really doing people. But it's not that way. We anything we now.
Oh, excellent, man. Please put that down as second. Okay, so for the sake of our time, I mean, very interesting and insightful contributions and comments, and I think we could go on and on and on, but I think we want to, wrap this up so that we can still get some time to rest to do other commitments before we meet for gala. We will take one final comment, and then I'll have Oga Beam wrap up with. Okay, perfect.
I just asked them. If you do have comments to make them, be nice to hear.
Please give the person speaking your phone so that we can hear.
Oga, please give us the honors of picking somebody from there. Wait. Let's open it to. Does anyone want to say one or two things? Say anything about.
She's married to an ex-jam who's relocating to Canada. Please introduce yourself.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Marcus Paul. I'm married to Minamo.
Yeah, please can you help us with audio?
Oh, it's nice to meet you, and we're glad that you could make it to, to this gathering. Okay, does any of you here, aside this man, does any of you here have anything you want to say? Okay, there you go.
Hello everyone, my name is Kenneth Jr. From what I've heard so far, I'm also part of an organization, so I understand what you guys are trying to do. So I have a couple of questions. Is the XJAM alumni, is it only for like people who went to the XJAM school? Okay, so one thing I do like is the fact that you guys have merch. I feel like that brings a community aspect to it. It makes you belong and it makes you want to come back and be a part of something. And then I did do some research on the internet, and one thing I'll just say is just keep up the website updated. It wasn't updated with the current events, but you guys have a Facebook, Instagram, all that's kind of updated. The live stream was on there, so I say good job with all that, and just keep it up.
I appreciate that. You could see the thought process of the younger generation. That's why we need them to be involved in this. Nobody has talked about Facebook or Instagram in all our comments, but that's how, so really, really good comments. The merch is another strong comment. If you're interested, again, please see Oga Cyril, or we still have merches, right? Excellent. Oh, there you go. See,
I also just wanted to say with the mentorship program you guys were talking about, I'm part of a few mentorship programs on my campus, and it's really cool to have like a survey or something where people that are looking for mentorship can fill it out, and people that are wanting to mentor can also fill it out, and that way it's an easy way to match them up.
I'm just gonna stay here now. I'm just gonna stay here now because yeah. Okay. Okay.
I mean, like, I usually don't know exams a lot, like in terms of cities, like I'm in New York, I don't really know guys around. Like, how do we get this contact? I know you talk about the database, but I think it's very important, like, so that even if maybe over in whatever city you find yourself. You could just maybe once a month or once in 3 months, we could just hang out, like get to know each other, meet each other's families. I think that's kind of very locally is also important as well. So
Very good point. Very good point. And I think Ogabim would touch on that on his final address. And I think we should also think about there's a reason why we're doing the reunion in Canada. And that's again to strengthen the bond, the association in Canada. And it's a lot of us that maybe we've not been super active in our platforms, but we're here today. And I think that it's an opportunity to build on that. So let's also bear that in mind. I'll get to my final comments.
Okay, so yeah, with the networking, I think you guys have been doing a good job with the networking events. Just keep on doing that in the regional chapters. I know you guys might have some chapters all over the USA. I think for people who don't have a sense of community and wherever they're at, having these social events will allow them to get to know people who went to the same school as them and then connect with like there. So I think just keep on doing that.
Excellent. Sir? Okay. Well, let me take for my.
I just want to add on about the event. So I think it's good that you all do reunions every couple of years, but I think even smaller events are good. It doesn't have to be every time you guys are doing a big reunion, even if it's just guys who like fishing or whatever event it is, that will help like the community be able to find those people, even if it's just a few people that are ex-jam. So I think that will help.
Thank you. but there's that's but that's a strong point. I think that there's so many things that we could do together that would foster that relationship. I mean, it could be cookout, like you could host the next barbecue or hiking or golf or something. Like I feel like there's several opportunities.
Thank you everyone so far for all the brilliant comments. One thing I just want to say, there's a reason we have the exco. So I would suggest let's not wait till we have gatherings like this, till we have Zoom sessions before we point out things that need improvement or things that need attention. If it's on the WhatsApp group, if on the website, YouTube, anything you see wrong, please point it out to the ESCO so we can address it as quickly as possible. Let's not wait till we gather in reunions because there's so much to do. I can look at this bottle now and say it's orange, maybe because my eye, they pain me or something. Someone else might look at it and say it's red. We all have brilliant viewpoints, so let's make use of that. If you see something being posted on the WhatsApp chat that you think it's offensive, it's not mature, please let us know. We will address it and sanitize the group. Thank you.
Okay, I think we'll wrap up now. Ogabim. Oh, sorry. There's a comment. Ogadijo, please, you have the floor. My apologies for the delay in getting you on. Just 1 second so I can get the audio from your.
Okay. Well, it's evening where I'm at now. So good evening, guys. And it's awesome seeing you guys from way over there. Sorry, you can't see me on video because where I am, things don't plug in that well and it's quite dark. So the video is kind of spooky. I was wondering for a while now, those of you in the diaspora, and I think you all may be very tech savvy and all that. If there was anyone musing or any idea of an XJam app, like the Quora app or other kinds of app. I have this this Bible app I interact with, and it's so, there's something so, it tightens the connection and brings us into contemporary times. So, and I think those kinds of initiatives tend to take off from diaspora groups like yours. But aside from that, just to wish you guys well and say, yep, we're rooting for you back here and to have a happy reunion. Cheers, guys. And yeah, I'm rooting for my mates as well, Tebe and my overall. God bless you guys. Cheers.
Thank you so much for that comment. So we'll
bring this to a close, and I'll call on the president of the association again to give a summary, and then we can just wrap up. Again, you can feel free to still hang out afterwards. We have the hall, but we just want to, officially close the meeting so we can all go back to whatever we have planned for the day.
So again, thank you so much. It's been very insightful, very enjoyable, very informative. When you have forums like this and you say it's going to be interactive, the fear is always it's interactive and one or two people talk, but everyone has contributed. The contributions have all been very, very insightful and very valuable. So thank you. Thanks again to everybody. Please, round of applause for everybody. I just want to try and summarize because I think it's important that it's not just talk, right? We have these things, it's great, everyone feels energized, and we talk and we go away and then that's it, right? We don't want to do that. I mentioned 4 themes which will communicate further and in more detail, but I'm going to try and summarize everything we've said. And again, if I've missed something, the experts are meeting after this to make sure we fill the gaps. But I'm going to try and summarize everything under those 4 buckets. The first, well-being. So we've talked about doing a monthly call, having smaller sessions, knowing who we are, right? The database, right? We can't care for our well-being without having a database, an active database of who we are, and giving people access to that. So these are things that we'll take away. Growth. We've talked about mentorship. Again, that stems from us knowing who is in the group. We've talked about things like education. One of the areas we didn't talk about, health, but things that pertain to our well-being are things we'll invest in. So we'll start with well-being, then we'll focus on growth. We talked about people moving. So again, it's not so much, on the one hand, yes, we do have to focus on those of us here, but we can't ignore this demographic trend that there are a lot of people moving, and part of being relevant is to be a community that's a resource to that, right? That helps people settle in. We should not have, hopefully, going forward, people who would move in, like Buchi mentioned, here for 5, 6, 7 years, or Oga mentioned, with no connection. We need to be that family for people who are moving in, right? It's all part of the caring. And then, like I said, different views on this, but giving back. And again, I think it's important because you look at institutions, right? I mean, the top institutions in the world. One of the key things is there's a connection to that source. So as much as I know that, yes, we've got to focus here. I mean, Harvard or Princeton or whatever would not be what it is without the alums who are doing great things, but connecting to ensure that greatness continues. So these are things we're going to build on. There will be follow-on sessions, and we hope they'll be as active as this. But I want to leave us with a couple of takeaways. One is, as we're doing this, there's a lot, and it can be overwhelming. It's not impossible. But let us take the long view. What we're doing, the seeds we're sowing, are not things we necessarily will see tomorrow or next week or next month, right? So someone will look at this and go, well, you said well-being, but we're not doing growth, or we said this. We'll touch on these things one at a time. We have to be pragmatic, and that means putting one step in front of the other. So for me, I'm a believer in we'll find one. We'll do multiple things. You can, what do they say, chew and spit gum or walk and chew gum, right? So it doesn't, but there'll be emphasis on completing one. I mean, we don't want to be like in those days in FMS, we had plenty of uncompleted buildings. And we know some of us lived in those uncompleted buildings, but we'll say no more. But let's start something and finish it, right? And even when we say finish, it's a continuous effort, but let's build it to a point where it's tangible and we can see the benefits. So again, things like I hear on things like collaborating nationally, I think that's important, but we can be the beacon and start some things here, right? Because sometimes when you spread it, it complicates matters, right? Then you're like, so, but if we build it, there's no reason we're going to hold it and say, oh, it's now our intellectual property. No, let others have it. But let's take the long view, right? These are things where my hope, my dream, my prayer is that God willing, God keep us in good health. We'll be here at reunions in 10, 20 years, right? With a bigger group, multiple generations by then, and we will seize them of these seeds. Like I said, these is Princeton's and all these places, they started from somewhere. And you look back and you now see what they built. So let's be that foundational block. We have the benefit of having our pioneer sets here, right? So it's important that we lay those foundational stones. So that's what we're doing. And some of the things we do, I mean, it's not, I don't mean it in a morbid or, right? It's not for us. It's not for us. What do XJAM Group look like in 2050? That's what having vision, but we're just taking one step at a time. And then the second piece is we need soldiers. And I know, no pun intended, there's work to do, but there's talent available and we're all busy. So we can all say, oh yeah, the EXCO, right? The EXCO are just as busy as everybody, right? We're custodians for a small time and we hand over, but there is work to do. So please, let's all step forward in any little way. What can I do? Let's not leave it to everyone else, right? We're all here, right? And we look at our home country, Nigeria, right? And we want to do better than what we see there. And one of the issues there is we're very good at talking about issues, pointing out problems, but there's what we talk about and point out people in 20, 30, 40 years look back. They may not even know where it started, but they will be beneficiaries of the seed we've sown. That is greatness. So thank you very much. We'll relax for the rest of the afternoon. And we look forward to partying and jamming in the evening. Abi? Thank you.
Thank you, sir. And so with that, we will open up, just as it's typical for our seminars. We open the floor for just chit chat with anyone, and you can feel free to still hang around in the hall if you're not in the hall. Take off, but thanks for your time and attention and your comments.